Excluded from Christmas for being a plumber, I cut off my sister's law school money. Now she's begging, and I'm better off without her. Okay, so I've been sitting on this story for a long, trying to figure out where to even begin describing this disaster. I suppose I should introduce myself first. I'm 32, unmarried, and own my own plumbing business. Yeah, I know, it's not the most glamorous job, according to certain people, including my family. But, to be honest, I make a lot of money and enjoy my job. There's something rewarding about fixing difficulties and assisting others, even if it occasionally requires dealing with their literalism. LOL. Amanda, my 26-year-old sister, is currently attending law school, which I have been paying for. Yeah, you read that correctly. I've been paying her full tuition since she started. Her lover was a hotshot doctor at the local hospital, a real piece of work. But we will get to him later. So this is where things went awry. About a week before Christmas, I received this call from my mother. Now, you have to realize something about my mother. She never calls just to speak or check on me. It's always because she wants something or there's a family issue that needs to be resolved, usually involving money, to be honest. However, this call was different. She begins with a strange, hesitant tone, as if she is about to tell you that your dog has died. Then she lays the bombshell on me. I'm not invited to Christmas this year. Just like that. There is no notice, discussion, or anything. At first, I assumed I misheard her, as if she had said they were altering the date or something. But, nah. She goes on to say that it might be best if I sit this one out because they want to keep things comfortable for everyone. I'm sitting there, thinking, what the actual, one, since this is so unexpected. We've always celebrated Christmas together, even while I was working long hours to get my business off the ground. Sure, my family has always been odd about my job. They enjoy the money I make, but God forbid they tell anyone what their son and brother does for a living. So I pressed her on it, asking, what's the real reason? She began hedging and hawing, talking in circles about professional looks and everyone's comfort, but she refused to give me a clear answer. It wasn't until later that day that I learned the true cause, from my cousin Sarah. She'd overheard Amanda discussing it with our mother earlier that week. Apparently, my lovely sister had informed our parents that having me for Christmas would be awkward because I did not fit in with her and her boyfriend's professional standing. Allow that to soak in for a minute. My own sister, who I've been helping through Vermont Law School, was ashamed to have me for Christmas because I'm only a plumber. She was concerned about how her fancy doctor partner would react to having to sit at the same table as someone who worked with their hands for a career. The more I thought about it, the more things fell into place, like how Amanda never invited me to any of her law school events, despite the fact that I was paying for her to attend, or how she always changed the subject when her friends asked what her brother did for a living, or how she never introduced me to her boyfriend, despite the fact that they'd been dating for nearly a year. Do you know what the worst part was? My parents agreed with her. They truly believed it was okay to exclude their own son from Christmas because his employment would make their beloved daughter's boyfriend uncomfortable. The same son who has been providing for the family since he was 18. The same son who built his own successful firm from the beginning. The same son who has been paying for their golden child's law school education without complaint. My mother tried to sugarcoat it with phrases like, well, honey, you know how these professional circles are. And maybe, next year, when you've developed your career more. What the boss does that even mean? I own my own business. I have staff. I earn 6 figures performing honest work. But apparently it isn't evolved enough because I don't wear a suit and tie to work. I spent the entire day stewing over this information, growing increasingly irritated. Not the heated, angry type of pissed off, but rather a cool, calm knowledge that my family, particularly my sister, had been exploiting me while being ashamed of me the entire time. That's when I decided it was enough. If I was too embarrassed to bring to Christmas dinner, my money would be too embarrassing to spend for law school. What kind of message would it send to my sister's fancy beau if he discovered her law degree was paid for by a gas-passing plumber? But hold on, this is only the beginning. The real, what I had show began when I made the decision to take action. And let me tell you, karma is especially when it comes with the accompanying student loan burden. So, after learning that I was barred from celebrating Christmas because my blue-collar profession would insult my sister's boyfriend's delicate sensibilities, I was in a strange state of mind. You know that feeling when you're so enraged that you suddenly become strangely calm? That is where I was at. I spent the entire night reading over previous text messages and discussions with Amanda. And holy, guys, the signs were everywhere. I was simply too blind, or perhaps foolish to see them. For example, last spring, she had a graduation party to celebrate finishing her first year of law school. I had truly paid for the entire year, But I didn't receive an invitation. When I approached her about it, she lied about it being a minor issue in her study group. Later, I learned from Facebook that it was a large party at a posh downtown restaurant. Then there was the time when she required a new laptop for class. Despite the fact that I am very knowledgeable about computers, she asked me to simply transfer the money to her account rather than accompany her to choose it. Nowadays, it's almost a requirement. Even in plumbing, we use tablets and specialized software to provide job bids and schedule appointments. She said that she was too busy to go shopping together. But now I'm quite sure she didn't want to be seen with her plumber brother in the Apple store. Looking back, it's sort of funny in a sad way. For example, whenever she needed money, which was often, she would text her humiliating blue-collar brother. But when it came to acknowledging my presence in her fancy new life, the radio is silent. I decided to dig. The benefits of having a cousin who is still on the family group chat, LOL. Amanda had been preparing for the Christmas exclusion for weeks. She told our parents that her boyfriend, Craig, yes, his name is Craig, was from a very prestigious family, and she was concerned about making a good impression. Apparently, having a plumber sibling may harm her professional prospects, or some elitist, like that. Want to know the true kicker? My cousin Sarah, bless her messy, drama-loving heart, forwarded me screenshots of Amanda's remarks from the family chat. She had actually written, and I'm quoting this directly, "I just don't want Craig to think our family isn't, educated. It could affect how his family sees me, and they have so many connections in the legal world. Educated? Educated." I wanted to respond and inform her that the reason she's getting an education is because her uneducated plumber brother pays $43,000 per year in school. But I held back. I was beginning to formulate a strategy, and sometimes you have to play the long game. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't only about Christmas. This was about years of my family, particularly Amanda, treating me as a filthy little secret. They were pleased to accept my dirty plumber money, but God forbid they acknowledge how I earned it. Here's a fascinating truth about plumbing that most people don't know. We have to study extensively. For example, years of apprenticeship, license examinations, and ongoing education to stay current with new legislation and technologies. I probably spent more time researching water systems and construction codes than Amanda did studying tort law. But because I work with my hands, they treat me like an idiot who couldn't make it in the real professional world. The reality is, I selected plumbing because I am skilled at it and saw an opportunity. I began working as an apprentice right out of high school, learned everything I could, obtained my licenses, and eventually launched my own firm. I currently have 3 vehicles on the road, 2 full-time staff, and more work than I can handle. But to my family, I am still the embarrassing brother who fixes toilets. I kept thinking about all the times I went late at work or did additional work to make sure I could pay Amanda's tuition. All those times I postponed purchasing new items for myself or contributing more to my retirement account because family came first. Meanwhile, she was actively attempting to conceal my existence from her new lover and his family. That's when my cousin threw another bomb at me. Craig's family did not appear to be overly concerned with such matters. His uncle, a successful contractor, built their family house. Amanda had simply assumed they would look down on me since that is how she sees me. I sat with all of this information for a few days, monitoring the family group chat via Sarah. They'd removed me from it weeks ago, ostensibly to minimize any discomfort surrounding Christmas arrangements. Amanda was going on and on about how pleased she was to host Craig for Christmas dinner, how his family had ties at all of the city's large law firms, and how this could be her opportunity to earn a summer position through his contacts. No one stood up for me the entire time, not my parents, nor any of my other relatives. Nobody remarked, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't exclude the guy who's been supporting Amanda through school." Everyone was just pleased about Amanda getting a prestigious internship through her boyfriend's family. That's when I realized exactly what I needed to do. If they wanted to pretend they didn't have a plumber in the family, I'd help them make that lie a reality, beginning with Amanda's tuition payments. So, after stewing over all this nonsense for a few days, I decided it was time to make my move. But here's the thing. I didn't want to write a furious text or anything. I wanted to do it in such a manner that they couldn't distort my words or make me look like the evil person, which is, incidentally, my family's favorite hobby. I waited until I knew Amanda's next tuition payment was coming due. It was due in about 2 weeks, and she was always really worried around this time. Normally, she'd start dropping subtle hints about remembering the payment deadline, like, "Oh, the school's been sending reminder emails," or something. What about this time? The radio is silent. She must have assumed that the payment would simply come, as it always did, even after they had barred me from attending Christmas. Quick side note, I had been paying my tuition payments straight to the institution using their online portal. Amanda had set it up herself when she first started, and she provided me all of the login information, which was really convenient since she considered me as her personal ATM. Right? Anyway, I got into the portal and noticed my upcoming payment. $21,500 for the spring semester. That's when I realized how much money I'd been putting at her studies while she was actively attempting to conceal my existence from her boyfriend. Do you know how many toilets you need to fix to generate that much money? Answer: a lot more than most people realize. So I phoned Amanda. I didn't text her, I called because I wanted to hear her voice when I dropped the bomb. She picked up on the third ring, sounded angry, as if I was interrupting something essential. Hey, she remarked in that tone that shouts, make it quick, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Oh, sorry, I replied, attempting to sound nonchalant. Just wanted to talk about your tuition payment. It's due soon, right? Her voice changed instantly. Suddenly, she became all lovely and interested. Oh yeah, thanks for remembering. It's due on the 15th. You're still okay to cover it, right? Actually, I replied. I've been thinking about what you told Mom and Dad about Christmas, about how having a plumber brother might embarrass you in front of Craig and his family. There was complete stillness on her end. You could almost hear her brain short-circuiting as she attempted to figure out how to spin this. That's not who told you that, she eventually exclaimed. Does it matter? I inquired. Is it true or not? More silence. Then she sought to enter damage control mode. Listen, you don't understand. Craig's family, they're really particular about these things. His father's a judge. His mother's on all these charity boards. I just thought it would be better if you pretended your brother doesn't exist. I completed for her. Because he's just a lowly plumber. That's not fair, she complained. I never said that. I need them to take me seriously if I want to have a future in law. You know how these circles work. I couldn't help laughing. Actually, I don't know how these circles work. I'm just a plumber, remember? But you know what I do know? The exact amount I've paid for your law school so far. Want me to break it down for you? She began to say something, but I continued going. First year costs $43,000. Second year, first semester cost $21,500. Plus all the other costs, your laptop, textbooks, and that special study program you simply had to have. According to my calculations, that's around $770,000 thus far. Everything was paid for by your embarrassing plumber brother. Why are you acting like this? She moaned. You know how important this is for my future. Craig's family has connections at all the top firms, and having a plumber brother would ruin that. I inquired. Even though that plumber brother is the only reason you're in law school in the first place. You promised to help me, she replied. You said you'd support my dreams. That's when I said it. Yeah, I did, when you were proud to call me your brother. But if I'm too embarrassed to have Christmas dinner, then I guess my money should be too embarrassing to pay for your tuition. You guys, the screech that came out of her mouth sounded like a pterodactyl's tail being stepped on. You can't do that, she shouted. The payment is due in 2 weeks. What am I supposed to do? I don't know, I responded, feeling strangely peaceful. Maybe ask Craig. I'm sure his fancy doctor salary could cover it. Or is my dirty plumber money the only kind you're willing to touch? She began crying, full-on dramatic sobbing. Please, she asked. I'll tell Mom and Dad I was wrong. You can come to Christmas. Just please don't do this to me. No, I replied. I don't want to come to Christmas. I don't want to embarrass you in front of Craig and his family. In fact, I don't want anything to do with any of you anymore. Consider this my last payment to the family that's ashamed of me. I hung up while she was still crying and begging and immediately banned her phone number. I poured myself a drink and braced myself for the impending storm. After that, everything began. My mom came first. She called around 5 times in a row before I eventually answered. The moment I responded, she launched into guilt trips, which are her specialty. She was crying about how I was wrecking the family and Amanda's future due to a silly misunderstanding. Silly misunderstanding? I asked. She literally told you she was ashamed of what I do for a living. The same job that's been paying her tuition. She didn't mean it like that, Mom explained. You know how Amanda is. She just gets caught up in trying to impress people sometimes. She looks up to you. I almost choked on my drink. She basically barred me from Christmas because she was humiliated by me. How the hell is that looking up to me? Then Mom took a different approach. Consider what this will do to her relationship with Craig. His family might greatly benefit her career. Oh, so you want to talk about Craig? I interrupted her off. It's funny how important he and his family are, yet your own son isn't even good enough to sit at the Christmas table. She started blubbering about how that wasn't what we meant and how I was taking everything too personally, which is a typical mom move, trying to make me feel like I'm overreacting when they're the ones being nasty. When my father called, he went straight for the angry approach, which was unsurprising, and he started ranting about how I was being selfish and vengeful, calling me a little one for endangering Amanda's education. Isn't that Father of the Year material? Let me get this straight, I told him. I'm a little maindan for not wanting to spend thousands of dollars on someone who is ashamed of me. Make it make sense, Dad. We raised you to be better than this, he hissed. Family supports family, I replied. Really? Is that what you intended when you agreed to exclude me from Christmas? Was that a supportive family? He tried to explain himself by claiming that sometimes we had to make sacrifices for the better welfare of the family, which apparently included kissing Craig's ass in the hopes that he would boost Amanda's career. But what really struck me was that no one apologized for how they treated me during any of these calls. Instead, it was all about how I was bad for sticking up for myself, how I was being petty and vengeful, and how I was letting my pride get in the way of family. Then came the flying monkeys. My aunt called to tell me how disappointed she was in my behavior, my uncle texted, saying I needed to man up and be the bigger person, and even my cousin Sarah, who told me about Amanda's lies, messaged me, saying maybe I was taking things too far. But you know what? None of them offered to help pay Amanda's tuition themselves. The best part? Amanda actually went and told Craig what was going on, and I guess she thought he'd offer to help with the tuition instead. According to Sarah, who's still keeping me updated, Craig got really quiet and started asking questions, like, why hadn't Amanda ever mentioned she had a brother? Why didn't she introduce them? Why did her brother pay for her law school in the first place? Craig couldn't understand why Amanda would keep her brother's existence hidden just because he was a plumber. It turned out that his uncle, the one who built their family home, started as a plumber before becoming a contractor, and Craig had actually worked summers with him in high school. When Amanda tried to explain her reasoning, she just dug herself deeper. She started talking about professional appearances and social circles, and Craig got more and more upset, saying he couldn't believe she'd hide and disrespect her own brother, who'd been supporting her education, just for some perceived social status. Craig told her the next day that he wanted time to think about their relationship because her actions revealed a side of her personality that he didn't like. Who knew he had principles? Meanwhile, my parents were constantly blowing up my phone. Mom alternated between crying and begging, Dad between cursing and threatening. Amanda kept calling from other numbers after I blocked hers, and I ultimately turned off my phone for a few days. It was all about how I was ruining everything by not just shutting up and paying like a good little ATM, but I was done being their ATM. If standing up for myself made me the bad guy in their eyes, so be it. It was better than being their doormat. After a few days, Craig came over to Amanda's apartment. She probably thought he was there to make up, but no, he broke up with her. He said he couldn't be with someone who would treat their own brother that way, especially someone who had supported them so much. He said it made him question her values and who she truly was. Amanda lost her indeclass and contacted me crying and shouting from yet another new number. She's had more burner phones than a drug dealer at this point. She said I'd wrecked everything, that Craig broke up with her because of me, that her life was falling apart, and it was all my fault. I laughed and replied, no, sis. Craig ended his relationship with you after discovering your true identity. I just stopped helping you hide it. She threatened to tell everyone that I had sexually assaulted her in high school, that she would report my business to the Better Business Bureau for fraud, and that everyone would know what a terrible brother I was. Go ahead, I told her. Tell everyone your brother is a monster because he checks notes, paid for your education while you tried to conceal his existence. See how that works out for you. Then she went back to begging, crying about how she couldn't afford law school without me, how she'd have to drop out, how she'd lose all of her friends, and how her life would end. Guess you should have thought about that before you decided I was too embarrassing to acknowledge, I responded. Then I disconnected. After Craig dumped her, Amanda had a complete mental breakdown, according to Sarah. She began showing up at our parents' house at random hours, crying about how her life had ended. She had apparently told all her law school friends that her boyfriend was going to help her with tuition, so when he dumped her instead, she was completely screwed. The deadline for the tuition payment was approaching, and she still hadn't figured out what to do. She tried applying for emergency loans, but guess what? Those take time to process, and she left it way too late. Plus, she'd need a cosigner, and our parents' credit is a mess. I wonder why they keep trying to live beyond their means. Sarah texted me. 911, Amanda just posted on Facebook that she's heading to your shop to make you face what you're doing to her. She appears unstable? I barely had time to warn my guys before she blasted through the door like a tornado in designer clothes, hair all messy, mascara running, full crazy ex-girlfriend energy, except she was my sister. How could you do this to me? She screamed in front of my entire staff and about 3 customers, I'm your sister, you're meant to look after me. I attempted to encourage her to go outside or at least lower her voice, but she seemed determined to cause a disturbance. You are ruining my life. She screamed, all because your delicate feelings were harmed. You are so selfish. One of my clients, a sweet old lady who had been with us for years, stood up. Young lady, she asked. Is this the brother who has been paying for your education? Amanda turned around as if she'd been smacked. That's none of your business. Well, the elderly lady added, you just made it everyone's business by storming in here shouting. And, based on what I've heard, you excluded your brother from Christmas because you were ashamed of his profession, but you still expect him to pay for your education. That's known as biting the hand that feeds you, in my hometown. The look on Amanda's face, she genuinely didn't know how to handle someone calling her out on her BS who wasn't family, but she recovered fast and shifted to crying, like full-blown theatrical sobbing. You don't understand, she cried. He is doing this to punish me. He's attempting to harm my future because he's envious of my achievement. I couldn't help laughing. What success, Amanda? The success of convincing your partner to dump you? The success of maybe having to drop out of law school? The success of embarrassing yourself in front of my staff and customers? At the very least, I'm making an effort to establish myself. She shot out, not just playing with pipes all day like some. She had to stop herself, perhaps realizing she was about to degrade plumbing in front of a group of plumbers. My senior employee, Mike, went up, and heck, a large fellow who's been with me since I started the business, said, Ma'am, in a dead serious tone, I think you should leave now. For the past 5 years, your brother's pipe playing has provided for my family's needs. It paid for my children's braces and my wife's automobile, and it appears to have paid for your law school as well. So maybe offer some respect. Amanda looked around and realized she wasn't receiving the reaction she had hoped for. Everyone was staring at her as if she were insane, which, to be honest, she was. She tried one more time. Okay, I'll tell everyone what type of brother you really are. I'll post about it all over social media. Go ahead, I urged. Make sure you mention the bit where you had me banned from Christmas because you were embarrassed by my employment but still expected me to pay your tuition. I'm sure that will bring you a lot of sympathy. She stormed off after that, but not before knocking down our sign and clipboard and kicking a display of business cards off the counter. Very mature, sis? The elderly customer approached me after Amanda left, stroked my arm, and said, You know, my late husband was a plumber. Put all 3 of our children through college. They never once expressed embarrassment about what he performed for a living. Then Mom looked me straight in the eyes and said, You're doing the right thing, honey? Sometimes family members have to learn the hard way that respect is a two-way street. After that scene, I had to sit down with my staff and explain the situation, and they were remarkably nice about it. Mike even remarked that his family's Thanksgiving drama was boring in contrast. So after the whole explosion at my business, Amanda decided to go nuclear. She started calling every single member of our extended family, telling them this sob story about how her cruel brother was attempting to ruin her future out of spite. But here's the thing about family drama. Everyone loves to get involved, but no one wants to actually assist. The first one was Aunt Karen. Yes, that's her name, and yes, she lives up to it. Who got me all wound up about family obligations and how I was selfish. This is the same aunt who borrowed $5,000 from me 3 years ago for emergency dental work and never paid it back. The conversation went as follows. How could you do this to your sister? She demanded. She's striving to improve herself. Funny, I responded. I do not recall you agreeing to assist pay for her law school. You still owe me for your teeth, by the way. There is no more sound. That's different, she sputtered. How dare you bring it up? Is it different? I inquired. Because, from where I stand, this entire family enjoys talking about helping each other until it comes time to actually help. Then suddenly, everyone goes quiet. She hung up on me after that. I guess the reality hurts more than those teeth did. Then there was Uncle Steve, my father's brother. He's this wannabe big shot who's always boasting about his investment portfolio but never has money when the restaurant bill arrives, and he tried to lecture me about family investments. Think of it as an investment in your sister's future, he told me. When she's a successful lawyer, she'll be able to help you. I laughed so hard at it. Can you help me? She couldn't even bear to have me for Christmas dinner because I'm a plumber. But, okay, tell me more about how she'll help me once she's successful. Well, he said. Maybe you could help her finish school, and she could pay you back. Great idea, I remarked. Why don't you lend her the money then? You're always raving about your fantastic investments. Here's an opportunity to invest in my family. He suddenly had to leave. It's amazing how this keeps happening. The best part was that no one who called to guilt trip me offered to really help Amanda themselves. They all had opinions on what I should do with my money, but their own wallets remained firmly closed. I'm done with her, and I'll keep you all posted if anything occurs. Final update, my sister had me excluded from Christmas because I'm only a plumber, so I took away her law school funds. Hey everyone, I figured I'd post one last update because so many people have been messaging me asking what happened. I heard from a mutual friend that my sister showed up at her ex-boyfriend's house uninvited and tried to talk to Craig's parents. She told them this whole sob story about how she was about to lose everything and needed help, but she didn't mention hiding me because I'm a plumber. Craig was obviously present and gave them the complete truth, but his father, the judge, appeared to glance at her and say, "Young lady, if you're trying to be a lawyer, you should know that attempting to manipulate people by telling half-truths is not a good start to your career." In the end, she had to drop out of law school because she couldn't get private loans without a cosigner, and no one in the family was willing to cosign after what happened. When Grandma got involved and told them they should be ashamed of themselves, even my parents stopped asking for my help. Amanda is now working as a paralegal at a small law company. According to Sarah, she claims it is only temporary until she can return to law school, but we all know that is unlikely. As for me, business is stronger than ever, and I've actually grown to 2 more trucks and employed 4 new workers. I still meet up with Craig and his uncle Mike for beers on occasion, and it turns out we get along really well when there's no family turmoil involved. My parents tried to reconcile around Thanksgiving, but only because they needed help with their mortgage. I declined and told them that maybe they should ask their successful lawyer daughter for help. Oh wait, funny thing is, I actually feel better now that everything's out in the open. No more pretending, no more being the family ATM, no more walking on eggshells about my job, just me, my successful business, and my actual friends who don't give a can what I do for a living. Thank you for your support, Reddit. Sometimes you need strangers on the internet to confirm you're not insane for standing up for yourself. Edit. Holy, this blew out. Thanks for all the accolades, and to everyone who DM'd me about needing a plumber in my region. Sorry, I'm trying to remain anonymous here. Edit 2. To everyone who says I ruined my sister's life, she did it herself. I simply stopped paying it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.